Good morning, Amory Hill, and what a pleasure and an absolute delight it is to welcome you all this morning. I'm sorry I couldn't do this in person in our normal sort of start of year assemblies, but for obvious reasons we can't have you all together in the hall. But on behalf of all the staff, I am absolutely delighted to welcome you all, and it's been a long time coming, hasn't it? Lots of things have happened over the last 6 months, but I really hope that you felt, although the distance was there, I hope you never felt you were on your own and the school was there to support you. But today is the start of something very special, a new start to a very exciting year. And I and the staff cannot wait to start teaching with you and working with you. For today's assembly though, there's some really important messages that are going to come up in the next few slides. But before I go into details of how the day is going to work, I have a little film for you to watch. Enjoy.
We dream in narrative. We daydream in narrative. We remember, anticipate, hope, despair, believe, doubt, plan, revise, criticise, construct, gossip, learn, hate, and love by narrative. We are the story that we tell ourselves. So, what story are you telling yourself? You will have heard of Steve Jobs. In his speech at Stanford in 2005, he told his narrative around 3 of his life-changing moments. His mother was a young college graduate who put him up for adoption on the condition that his parents put him through college education. He felt the pressure of this so much that he dropped out and ended up staying on the floor of his friends' houses. He ended up gatecrashing a calligraphy course at the local college. This experience wasn't wasted. When he built his first computer, Jobs made sure it had a choice of creative fonts. His second life-altering moment was when he was dismissed from the $2 billion company he had built himself. He didn't despair. He started a new company and bought Pixar Animations. And he started his new line of computer-animated films with Toy Story. His third narrative-defining story was when he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, when he came to the realisation that your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Jobs described the importance of connecting the dots, making sense of events. He said, you can't connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. Jobs constructed his own narrative. He saw the connection between his own dots. He focused on what made his life a story and on what kind of story it was. His was a story of redemption, of hope, of how you can lack so much but emerge with your head held high. He tried to make life better for himself but also for others. We dream in narrative. We daydream in narrative. We all have dots to connect. We must connect our own dots. Look back, see how far we've come. Create order out of what appears to be chaos. Connect your dots. Make sure your story is one worth telling.
And now is the chance to start creating your dots, trying to start to create your story, the next chapter in your book, looking back on what's happened and more importantly, looking to the future and deciding what is the type of person I want to be? What are my aspirations? What are my goals? Because it all starts here and it all starts with you. And to do that, I want us to think about 4 different things as I go through this presentation, about how the school is going to be open, and how we're going to open it in a safe and secure way, how we're going to recover from what has happened and look to the future. How do we rediscover our learning and what makes us really think and what makes us really learn? And then rethinking about the way things are done and maybe thinking about changing a few things now. But the first thing I want you to consider is about safety, not only your safety, but the safety of others. And the first thing that hasn't gone away is this virus. And we still, as this poster says, need to be alert to the symptoms. So if you wake up in the morning and you're feeling as though you've got a temperature, get it checked. If you start to have this continuous cough, which is new, or you start to lose your taste or your smell, please do not come into school. Speak to your parents or carers and say to them how you're feeling, because you need to get yourself tested. If you come into school, then it becomes a problem and we have to do something about that. And I much prefer us not to be in that situation. So staying safe, staying alert is absolutely key. So please remember, look out for those signs, and if you feel at all ill, do not come into school and talk to someone at home so you can be tested. The next thing is about to help protect yourself and others is some really simple things. Things that you're all aware of, but I have to remind you. The first thing is about making sure that we are continually washing our hands, ideally at the basins and in the toilets and in the new basins that you will see situated outside, and there's a picture there of where they're located, all using the hand sanitizers. Keeping our hands clean and then making sure that we don't touch our faces is one of the clearest ways of making sure that you don't pass on the virus. You will see hand sanitizer outside every single classroom. And when you go into a new classroom, please, please, please just give your hands a squirt with the sanitizer and wash them. Then at lunchtimes and break times, and I'll talk more about this if you're going into the dining hall, then you're going to be queuing up through these basins before you can be allowed in, and washing your hands thoroughly with soap. Arriving at school each day, there will be hand sanitizers by the gates. Please, please, please give your hands a wash with the sanitizer. And likewise, when it comes to face masks, at the moment, unless you are going on a bus to and from school, when you come into school, we are not saying that face masks have to be worn. It's going to be a choice thing at this stage, but that might change in the future. But at the moment, we don't have to wear face masks all the time. But if you are comfortable and you prefer to, then no one is going to stop you. Some staff might well wear face masks as well, because that's their choice this time. Okay, but if you do wear face masks and you do decide to take them off, then they must be placed in a separate carrier bag and then put into your school bag. Please don't leave them lying around. Please don't put them into any bins. They're your responsibility to throw away or remove or keep safe, so when you take them home, they don't touch anything else. As I say, if you're travelling by public transport and using, whether that's the trains or using the school buses, you must always have a face mask. You will not be allowed onto any buses at the front of the school if you haven't got a face mask on. So please remember that. So the structure and the timings of the school day are going to change a little bit over the next period of time, okay? And you need to listen very carefully to this. When you arrive at school, I need you to arrive from about 8:30. If you arrive a little bit earlier, that's fine. But at 8:30, the bell is going to sound and you are to go to your tutor room. Not hang around the playgrounds, not hang around the corridors, but go to your tutor room and sit down. Your tutor will be there. At 8:45, the bell will go, and that is when tutor and registration happen. If you arrive after 8:45, you are officially late. So make sure you don't do that, please, because it will go on your register as being late. The lessons we will have, again, will be 6 50-minute, but the day will be split now into 6 25-minute breaks. And I'll explain a little bit more about that in a second on the next slide. And at the end of the day, to start off with, we're going to have a staggered end somewhat, so that if you're in year 8 or 9, a bell will go at 2:50 and that will be the end of your day. Year 10 is at 2:55, and then at 3 o'clock it's year 7 and 11. That's important because we need to dismiss you and you need to leave the school site, okay, and go on your way and not hang around the streets, etc. Really, really important. Those that are collecting getting on a bus, I've got some more information about that in just a second. So as I said in the previous slide, break times and lunch times are going to be a little bit different, and this slide is going to try and explain that. It's going to be a bit confusing to start off with, but please bear with it. The idea is now that we're going to have 6 25-minute breaks during the day, and at certain times of the day, only certain year groups will be outside and having their break time. The rest of the school will be inside learning. Okay, so that's going to be a big difference, 6:25. So if we look today, for example, at 10:50, the bell will sound at the end of period 2. And for years 7 and 10, you will have your break then. For years 8, 9 and 11, you will go on to period 3. Okay, and you will go on to your period 3. For when the bell goes then at 11:15, 25 minutes later, years 7 and 10, you will come back in and go to your period 3 lesson, whereas years 8 and 9, who've had the first 25 minutes of that period 3 lesson, you will go off out to break, okay, for your 25 minutes. And then at the end of that, 11:40, 8 and 9, you will come in, and then year 11, you will go out for your 25-minute break. Okay. Now that might be a little confusing to start off with, because on Tuesday the order changes, and you can see on this slide on Wednesday it changes a little bit more at break time, and Thursday and Friday is likewise the same. Then at 12:05 everyone has either had their break or completed all of period 3, and then you will all go to period 4, have your period 4 lesson. And then at 12:55, the next process of 25 minutes starts. So at 12:55, years 9 and 11 will go out to lunch. And then at 1:20, you guys will come in, and years 7 and 10 will go out to lunch. And then at 1:45, 7 and 10 come in, and year 8 go out to lunch. Now, these posters are all around the school, okay? They're in every single room. So if you're ever unsure, you'll have easy access to that. The other side to this, and looking, you'll see some codes saying OOR and M&D. This is basically to say to you, this is where the playground that you need to sort of socialise and have your break time in. So if you're OOR, that's the old Odeon Road. So that's the far side near the fence and the big sort of bushes that line old Odeon Road. If you are M&D, that is the music and design block. So you are in that area for your break and lunchtime. Okay. So do think about that, think about the breaks. It will come slowly, but each day is, as you can see on this slide, is different, and your tutor will go through this with you again. So as well as the times of the day slightly changing, your lessons are going to be slightly different, because another aspect of this is trying to keep you together as pods. And that means you're going to be slightly restricted to which rooms you have your lessons in. Now it's going to be a case of you're only going to go to certain rooms in a day that have just been used by your year group. So it's not a case of wandering the school. The school will be zones. So there'll be a year 7 zone, a year 8, a 9, a 10 and 11. Okay, and your timetable that you receive today will indicate that. What it will show is that for years 7, 8 and a little bit of 9, you won't be going to many specialist rooms. Okay, you're in fact being in a quite restricted room. So even though you might have technology, you won't necessarily be having it in a technology room to start off with. Likewise, drama. Likewise, maybe some science lessons or some ICT lessons, for example. So you have to look at your timetable very carefully. When you arrive at your lessons, you should be lining up outside waiting for your teacher. When your teacher arrives, then you will go in one by one, you will sanitize your hands, and then you will be given a seating place. And this is a seating place that you must stay to every single time you go into that room with that particular teacher. Where you sit is really important, because we have to be able to record that, because if there is a problem, we need to know who is sat with who. So our expectations are going to be really clear, and our hope is that you will all be able to work with us on this, because we need to maintain the highest possible standards, both in safety and both in what we expect as far as your behaviour is concerned. Now, I know you're not going to let us down, Amory Hill, but just remember, we're all going to have to work together to make sure this works. If a fire drill happens, okay, that we go out in the normal way, followed by our teacher, and you will be lining up now where you lined up this morning in the new places. Again, we're separated now over 2 hardcore areas, and that's really important. You line up there quietly, and then we'll do our fire drill as we always done. So to quickly review about break times and to go on a bit, 6 25-minute break times. There is going to be this queuing system that I'm going to talk about in a minute. It's going to be just grab and go food. You are not going to be able to sit in the dining hall at all while we're during this pandemic, okay? So it's going to be grab and go food only, but Freddie and his team are coming up with hopefully some great things over the next few weeks and months. Specific year groups will use specific basins, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And students, you just remain on the hard courts during break time. You are not to be wandering the school at all. You come out, and that is where you will go. As you can see from this picture, we've installed 5 sinks just between the dining hall and the sports hall. And this is where you are going to have to line up before you go anywhere near the dining hall to buy some food, okay? There are dots set out so you know where to stand. And there are going to be 2 sinks on the left-hand side, 2 sinks on the right-hand side, and then there is going to be a middle sink that's going to be a spare one. You will see on this slide exactly where you are going to need to stand when you go and queue up for the sink. Okay, so for example, year 7, for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you will always use the sinks on the dining hall side. That will be the left-hand side of as you can look at this picture, on the left-hand side, those 2 sinks. And likewise for year 8, whether it's break time or lunchtime, you would line up today, for example, on the dining hall side. You do that on Tuesday, but Wednesday you have to move over to the right-hand side, the sports hall side. And then Thursday, Friday, again, you're back to the dining hall side. Year 9, 10, 11, you can see the same way. No one is going to be allowed into the dining hall until they've washed their hands thoroughly. So make sure you do a good job. That's really, really important. And then once you've washed your hands, you then go and queue up. So if you're on the left-hand side, in those first 2 basins, for example, year 7 today, you will then go walk around and then you will go and line up in the left-hand queue. That will be the one you can see on the left of that in that picture. And likewise, if you're in the right-hand queue and using those 2 basins, you will go round and be in the right-hand queue. If you're looking this way, the same thing then applies to where you go and stand afterwards. Okay, you will then go and stand. If you're on the left-hand side, you will stand on the hard courts nearest the music and drama block and technology block. And if you're standing on the right-hand side, it's again easy. You will then go on the Old Odeon Road side. So it all kind of ties in quite nicely. But there you will line, and as you come to the front of the queue, you will be letting in batches of 10 from one side, then 10 from the other. And it is very simply, we need you to be quick here, guys, but you go in, you grab something, there'll be sandwiches and grab and go stuff, go through and pay, and then you go and walk out the other side. You can't sit down in the dining hall, walk out and then go onto the hard courts to have your lunch or your snack. If you're not buying anything, then obviously you don't have to go through this process. And then finally, the all-important toilets. Now, during a break time and lunchtime, the only toilets that we are going to open, because it will be quieter for the rest of the school, is the science toilets. And you can see here, this is where you're going to have to queue up if you want to use those toilets for both boys and girls. Okay, they're going to be cleaned thoroughly throughout the day. But this is where you'll queue up, okay? Very, very important. The ones that are inside, they are not to be used during the day, during break times, because obviously the school is working. We don't want anybody else walking around the school. So that's where you come out, not the other side, just there where you can see those students. Your real help and cooperation, that would be really important, because we've also got to restrict how many students go into the toilet at any one time. So just be mindful of that when you're having to wait. Okay, thank you. So we get to the end of the day and we've managed to go through what has been some significant changes, but you've survived, you've got to the end of the day. Now, I've already talked about the fact that different year groups will go at different times. And please remember this, you're only to exit from the Old Odeon Road exit, okay, or the MFL exit if you are just walking home or going into town, okay. If you are getting a bus, now all the buses leave between 3 and 3:15 now, okay? But instead of queuing as you normally do, right down by where the buses are at the front of the school, you are now to come to this area of the school, at the back of the school on the hard courts. And you will see from this picture, there are now signs for all the different buses that we have. So you are to queue behind each one of those signs for the bus that is relevant to you. And then a member of staff will tell you when your bus has arrived, and then you will walk down to the front of the school, remembering that you need to have your face mask ready so that when you get onto the bus, you can put your face mask on. Please, please, please bear with us with this, okay? And make sure, please, that you do not congregate. If you're just walking, you do not congregate or wait for people. You need to exit the school and you need to get on your way. Really, really important you help us out at the end of the day. It's going to be quite different, and the exits we're going to be really strict with the exits as well. So thank you for your cooperation with that. So there was a lot about reopening, wasn't there? And I do apologise for sort of going into quite a bit of detail, but it's really important you understand how the basic process of the day works. But now it's coming on to the other things that are really probably even more important. It's about recovery. as individuals, as year groups, as whole school. And today is the start of that. And as the phrase goes at the bottom there, when seems like an uphill struggle, just think of the view from the top. And today is the start of that. It's a new dawn for us as individuals, as coming together as a year group and being part of your coloured year group, and obviously as a whole school. And this year is going to be so important for so many reasons, to re-engage with our learning and to really focus on what are the really important things about being with your friends, being with your teachers, and obviously being part of this school. We've all had different experiences over the last 6 months. For some of us, it might well have been a breeze and you've had an amazing time. But I know for many of you across the school, it's been challenging in different ways. Not being without your friends, finding it hard to learn at times at home, and finding it quite a struggle to understand some of the things your teachers are asking you to do. And then there will be some of you who have been affected by this virus, whether it be close family or friends. And we need to be mindful of that as everyone comes in, because we will all come back with different experiences. So if people are feeling upset, or if they are feeling worried in any sort of way, it's important in all of us that we support those individuals and give them the help they need, or take them to someone who can help them. I'm sure you're going to be able to do this, everybody, and I'm sure you're going to be supported, because that's the type of school we have. And so today starts the rediscovering of our learning. And that's going to be quite hard when you think about it. 6 months of not being in a lesson. Can you remember that I talked about expectations? Because our expectations aren't going to change. We're going to want you to be sat down and working as hard as you can, giving it your very best. At times it's going to be difficult because there might have been things you understood when you were away, and for some of you there'll be other things where you might have gaps in your learning. And that's why it's even more important to try and concentrate, to focus, and to ask those questions of your teachers when you don't understand something. By doing all those things, we will get through this, we will catch up, and we will go forward. For those of you in year 11, it's going to be such an important year, but for year 10, for year 9, for all of you, important. Every single day could count, and does count. And so you need to work with us. You need to be trying your best at all times. When you're given that homework to do, that's so important in supporting your learning. But there's also rediscovery in friendships. Friendships that have been probably quite in the virtual world for a long period of time. There may have been difficulties as well as that with friendships in this virtual world, because misunderstandings happen, things are said through social media that you may not wanted to, and now you're going to have to face those people face to face, and maybe there is time to apologise or reconsider what you might have said, but to go up to people and to be able to have that conversation face to face and be with your friends again as a group, I'm sure is going to be absolutely amazing. And this unique relationship you have with your school, that we are all there for you, and that is so important. And although we've tried our very best, I can appreciate that we have probably, haven't had that close relationship that we had prior to going, us sort of closing down back in March. And there's going to be opportunities now to go back and try those interests, those hobbies. And although there won't be a lot of clubs starting straight away, these clubs will start eventually. And then you can again be part of those teams, part of those interest groups, that music, that drama, that STEM, or working in the library, or whatever it might be. And then with that comes success, comes happiness, fulfillment, and all those things that make life special will start to fall into place. And we will look back on this with a lot of interest, being the generation that went through COVID-19, where the world stopped, where school stopped in its real sense. And you'll be able to look back on this with a lot of thought, a lot of consideration, but also hopefully a lot of pride that you, along with the school, got through it, and you became a stronger and better person for that. So we're on to the last couple of slides, you'll be glad to know. And all I want to leave you with this slide is about rethinking. Rethinking how we can all catch up. What can you do to catch up? What extra time are you going to have to give now to catch up with your learning? How are you going to do that? How are you going to ask for support? How can you support others? How are you going to keep yourself as safe as possible during the school day and after the school day. I've given you lots of suggestions of what we're expecting you to do, but it's also about that distance that you keep from people, trying to do that as best you can. Who can you go for help? Well, hopefully you know that, but thinking about all your teachers, your tutor, your classroom teachers, student services, your progress leader, any member of staff at school, your TAs, any member of staff is there for you. So if you're unsure at any time, there are people there I know you can ask. Do not go home feeling unhappy. Do not go home feeling concerned. Talk to us and then we will help. And then finally, what's going to happen in the future? Well, to be honest, I can't tell you that. My crystal ball is not working particularly well. But what I do know is that we will not be disappearing as a school. We will be there to support you. And I know that your teachers are so keen and desperate to be able to do their job, which they wanted to do, and that is to teach in front of a class and to support you and see you grow and blossom and turn into into wonderful adults that can take on this world, this ever-changing world, as I used to keep talking about, but even more so now. We need to prepare you for that. And we're all going to work together with you and with your parents to make sure that happens. So in that respect, there is no worry. We can conquer anything, Amory Hill. We can achieve absolutely anything. It's the mindset we set from today is a I can, I will, I do kind of attitude. And with that, anything can be achieved. So it's a year of new beginnings, isn't it? Today is this new start. And as JFK once said, according to the ancient Chinese proverb, a journey of 1,000 miles must begin with a single step. And today is that single step for you, literally and figuratively. And I, along with all the staff, wish you a very, very safe and reassuring and confident and successful journey. And with every journey, you need a support system. You need people behind you, around you, and ahead of you to help you. And here, as a community, we are going to be there for you, each and every one of you. So I'm going to sign off now because I want to try and get a good walk around the school and see you all and see how you are all doing. And finally, welcome back, everybody. Lovely to see you, and let's have a fantastic year ahead.